Okay, thank you, Mr. Lee, for a very kind introduction. And thank you to Rachel. Thank you to Live for inviting me as a speaker today. It is a very interesting topic by Jacqueline from the global perspective. And for me today, I will talk more on the local perspective for the Malaysian. So as a practitioner for the past 15 years in the solid waste management, there are a lot of more things that we can talk today. And feel free to send me questions or anything that I can answer. So for a circular economy in Malaysia, it is more or less quite new. And not many people understand what is the circular economy is all about. And of course, based on the montage video that we have seen early before the forum today, you can see that the everything goes back to nature. And from the 1970s, many countries are, struggling, are running to go for the economic developments and urbanization. And what will happen? It will increase the economic wealth and disposable income, which then increase the consumption of goods and services. And definitely under the current linear practice, what will happen is that we extract, we make, we use, and we dispose, and everything end up as a wastage. So to climb this ladder, to change from the current throwaway concept of linear economy to a more sustainable circular economy that works on a closed loop system of reduce, reuse, and recycle to maximize the utilization of product in the material through repair, refurbishment, remanufacturing, and recycle. And you can say that as one of the problem statement that we have in Malaysia now is that economic growth must not be over dependent on natural resources. So what is the repercussion of the our current linear economy? Number one is definitely the depletion of natural resources. I think from the beginning we can see that the God have created such a beautiful natures. It goes back in circle, but we have break that into a more straight path that everything goes to what we can see the landfills. So depletion of natural resources, you can see it goes in tandem with the growth domestic product, and the depletion of natural resources is 45% of the cost of the GDP, and for Malaysia as the high middle income country is about 34%. And as mentioned as well by the previous speakers and also by our live chairman, we extract about 90 billion tons, of the natural resources, and it is more than 12 tons per capita, and only 10% is recovered. As mentioned by Mr. Lee as well, in terms of circular economy, almost 90% is not being on the circular, 90% is more on the linear, and only 9% plus is on the circular economy. And of course, all the natural resources have the lifespan. For example, the oil, we have 40 years, natural gas, 60 years, and phosphorus, 100 years, and coal, 200 years. Of course, the second one, the repercussion is climate change. The COP26 has deliberated a lot on this. And I believe Jack also talked about this climate change as one of the objective of the circular economy. And the third one of the visible repercussion is the waste management. Yeah, globally, 2.2 billion tons of municipal solid waste being generated worldwide, and only 16% being recycled, while the rest being disposed of. And waste management rise in tandem with GDP. And I think we've from the OECD countries, the waste increased by 0.69% for 1% of the GNI. Okay, the circular economy. I think we have. I think for now, most of us have realized what the circular economy is all about. I think the main objective is to decouple economic growth from the finite resources consumption and to promote a sustainable development. So, circular economy again is competitive, less carbon intention, and we have the three objectives: design, outwaste, and pollution. And I believe this will be been deliberated by our Professor Dato Emeritus in the last section. And we have to keep products, component, and material at the highest value in use and regenerate natural system. And you can see the circular business model is all circular supplies, product as service, sharing platform, product life extension, and all those things. And you can see on the pictures below is how you can compare the linear metabolism for the cities as compared to the circular metabolism for the cities, where we are promoting more on the renewable energy. We recycle organic waste, we recycle materials for the, as long as possible in the life cycles, and we end up have a very good ecosystems. So this is more on the circular economy, the concept of Alan McArthur. And you can see on the right hand side is more on the non-organic, and then the left hand side is the organic, where we are promoting more on the items of reduce, reuse, refurbishment, recycle, and to make sure that we have all this material to be in the system as long as possible. And of course, in terms of promoting the energy recovery on the renewable energy, and only the final residual will go to the landfill, and only the requirement of natural resources that we need will only be back to produce the production. And on the left-hand side is more on the organic waste, which is much easier for us to do in terms of the organic from household, where Malaysian, I think we have about 45 to 50% of our current waste composition is organic, where mostly the food waste. And we have been, disposing so much of food waste into the landfill. And again, the topic that we have today, the journey begins with waste. The circular economy, the journey begins with waste is a very interesting topic. If you can see from our linear economy, it will end up that all the product goes to the landfill, and we will take it out from there to make it into the circle. You can see this is the 3 trusts and 7 pillars of circular economy, and they are all related to waste. You can see from the beginning on the extradition, industrial symbiosis, eco-design, functional economy, and this is, we can relate to the reduce, waste minimization, regenerative in design. And of course, Malaysia is not really manufacturing countries. We are more on the service oriented. We can go to the second one, which is the SDG 12, the consumption, the responsible consumption and production, and it is more on the reuse. We extend the product lifespan through the 3R. We have the responsible consumption, and at the end we have the waste management in place, which is more on recycling. So this is the 3 trusts and the 7 pillars, where if we can understand this and put it in our mind, understand it very well, and again, as mentioned by Jacqueline just now, is more on the action. So the key framework, the most important thing that we have to put in our head is we have to treat waste as a resource. And for your information, in Malaysia, we have 38,000 tons a day of waste being generated. And our recycling rate for 2020 is only about 30%. And from there, you can see 70% is going to the landfill. So I will show to you what is the value of this recyclable material in our waste later in the next slide. Okay, what are the barriers? The barriers, number one, as we have seen in the Jacqueline's presentation. Number one, what I would say is that in general, globally, most products have been designed around the linear economic process. And from the legislation assumption is that material will be used and discarded. And even it is something that we can repair, we can refurbish, but the attitude of the people now is still considered as, something is not new. It's not even the manufacturer warranty is not there, and it's been discarded. So the other thing that we can look at is in terms of the our gross domestic product, the GDP that we have. We don't have, or we don't include any costs in terms of internalizing the environmental cost for natural resource extraction into it. And that is where you can see the GDP is going up. But if we include the green GDP, where we internalize the environmental cost, the impact of natural resources extraction, and other environmental costs into it, it will create a more sustainable natural resource in the production. So in linear economy, economic growth is for only the short-term revenue gains. So this is something that we have to change. So this is a barriers, yeah. Generally, again, price of primary raw material are cheaper than the secondary raw material. I think that is many of you can confirm that when we go to buy something on recyclable material like a pencil, pens, it is more expensive than the normal pencils. And the social and environmental externality, as mentioned earlier, is not being priced, and the demand for circular product is still small. In terms of the institutional barriers, yeah, the traditional GDP again, it's not a green GDP. All businesses are still on short-term value creation. We are more on making money. We are not thinking of put the regenerative designs in our products. And in terms of law and regulation, are not prepared for C innovation. For example, you can see in Malaysia as well, we, in terms of the act that we have in Act 672, at the moment, they have not been practiced yet, even though we do have the take back system and disposal, the EPR into the Act 672. And all businesses are based on linear model, making it harder to close the loop. So again, for me, I would say that the lack of knowledge, lack of awareness, education on sustainability issues is something that of the primary concerns that we have to look at. Okay, the problem statement again, when it comes to solid waste management, now we are talking about waste, yeah? So most Malaysians do not understand the importance of sustainable development. So this will result in an unsustainable practice of linear economy, including the downstream activities of the waste management, is not sustainable and is very costly to the government. And of course, the lack of awareness and knowledge cause lack of participation from public, from the industry, from the commercial, from the institutional. And for example, that we have the military separation at source that have been under the Act 672. This has been enforced since June 2015, I'm not mistaken. But the results on the separation at source is I would say is not that up to the mark that we are looking at. For 2019, we are only collecting about 2,145 tons per year of valuable material in the waste at the source from the 7 states under 672. And the current AG report in 2019, Malaysian solid waste management system were clearly ineffective at the moment to reduce the waste generation amount. And therefore, the method for separation at source need to be reviewed to improve recycling or waste reduction. And this has been confirmed by the Compendium, yeah, as I mentioned just now, from SW Corp report in 2019, 38,120 tons per day of waste has been generated in 2019, and only 28.6% in 2019 have been recycled. And this is the empirical evidence that we have on the right-hand side. You can see that the solid waste generation grows from 19,000 tons per day in 2005 and going up by 4% to 38,110 tons per day in 2019. And for the 7 states, the government has been paying nearly 2 billion for a year for the 7 states. And in terms of recycling rate, we are still low as compared to the developed countries like Germany, Austria, where they are more than 50%. And low collection of recycled material through SAS, as I mentioned just now, for the 7 states of 2,145 tons a day is only 0.014%. And we are suffering in terms of the natural resource depletion at 34%. And of course, from this available material in waste, it is about more than 5 billion. So what is the barrier? Okay, let's talk about the Malaysian problem when it comes to the waste management. In terms of the legislation, yeah, enactment of Act 672, as mentioned by Mr. Lee during the introduction time, is for the 7 states, and it is under the concurrent list, meaning to say that even it's a federal states Act 672, but it has to get approval or to get a consent from the state for them to join under the Act 672. That's why you can see that at the moment, we have 7 states under the Act 672. Besides Penang, Perak, we have Selangor, and then Kelantan and Terengganu in the Peninsular Malaysia that has not under the Act 672. This, why I put it as a barrier, because the issue is that when these states, for example, like the factories are sited in Selangor or in Penang, the enforcement for the policy and regulation cannot be done. For example, if you want to do extended producer responsibility, which is one of the very important tool for circular economy, it is very difficult for the federal to enforce this because they are not under the state under the Act 672. And again, the second one was a barrier is the current practices. I think the current practices, the way we manage our waste, we are more on focus on the waste collection versus waste reduction, reuse, or recycling. And again, I can see from Jacqueline presentation, promotion, awareness, engagement on sustainable development practice are not very widespread into the whole of Malaysia. And I can confirmly I can say that we, the waste management people, the circular economy people, the governments, and the officer in charge of the sustainability understand what is the sustainable development is all about. But for the rest of the people, they might not understand what are these sustainable there for them. So we have to look into how to promote this, to engage with them, and to make sure that they can feel and they can understand why circular economy, why sustainable development is very important for the future generation of the people. And number four, I think Malaysia is cannot run away from the lack of enforcement. That particular in under the acts, even under Act 171 or under Act 672, but the enforcement are quite lacking. So in a big picture, this results in the economic growth to be over-dependent on the consumption of primary raw materials and the use of non-renewable energy. So what should we do? I think it's very simple. We have to change our mind, change our heart, put an action, and move toward a circular economy from the linear economy perspective. So this is a more snapshots of 2019 in terms of the waste management. This is what I've been mentioning to you just now. So we have nearly 38,000 tons a day of waste, and we have emit nearly 255 million tons of CO2, and we have paid nearly 2 billion for the waste. And one of the problems we have, we don't have a proper technology in terms of the end disposal site, where we only have 19 sanitary landfill across Malaysia, and 119 is still non-sanitary landfills. So this is the empirical evidence that I did on my analysis. You can see that the waste generation growth, CO2 emission is all in tandem with the GDP. And you can see the good thing is that when we have the Act 672, in terms of the quality of the services by the concessionaire goods, you can see on the left-hand side, the 2182 is a number of complaints that has dropped per month to about 100 from 2011 to 2019, which is a very good sign of people accepting good quality services to their areas in terms of the waste management. But on the blue line is more on the cost. So you can see the increase in cost from about 100 million per year to about nearly 2 billion a year. So this is where we have to find the crossroad to make sure that it's going to be a stable, we have a very good quality services, and at the same time we can manage the cost. And to do this is where the circular economy should come to intervene the current linear practice to make sure that we have a sustainable when it comes to the waste management. So this is the benefit, I think, in general on the economic benefits and the environmental benefits of the circular economy. And I think you can go through this. I don't have to read one by one. Yeah. And okay, this is the main benefit. Yeah, the main benefits on the importance of circular economy when it comes to the waste management. So if we manage to put the action of circular economy of the closing the loop on the reduce, reuse, and recycle, the 3R, and to make sure that the product will be in the life cycle as long as possible through the repair, remanufacturing, recycling, And you can see that we are doing at the early stage, at the source, at the premise. And when we can do this in terms of segregation of our waste and make sure that our waste is not being disposed, we can reduce the cost tremendously, because the waste generation amount is a cost driver for the waste management. The number, or the higher the amount of waste, the number of vehicles that we need to use. When we have the number of vehicles that we need to use, we will have the number of resources, manpower need to be used. And then we have a long distance traveling to the landfill, and the landfill will be fastly filled because of the amount of waste being generated. And this is, for me, being 15 years in waste management, this is the key on the benefit of circular economy, and it has to go through. So what or how much amount that we have in our waste? Yeah, this is the economic, and that is why my company Waste to Wealth developed the Trash for Cash app, because we see there are so much value in waste. For example, for the recycled materials, taking consideration of the current price of the materials, for example, plastics, HDPE, PET, PP, LDPE, and all those things, and papers. From here, if we can have a full recovery of this end of life waste material, the amount that we can generate from waste itself is 1.94 billion per annum. Yeah, this is only on the non-organic. And I just take the two big ones, paper and plastic, because we have a lot more like, the tin, can, steels, and all those things. But on the organic parts, and there's something that we can do, being the 50% or 45% from the waste position, is about nearly 3.5 billion, by converting our food waste into edible food, material for the animal feeds. And of course, we can also do for the energy, we can do for composting, and we also do have a green waste at 6%. And from here, in terms of the organic section, is about 3.5 billion. And the grand total that we are looking at, if we manage to have 100% full recovery, at least we have nearly 5 billion of economic potential in the waste itself. So this is what we should look at the moment during our planning for the transition from a linear to a circular economy, where I would say that definitely it will take a longer time for us to embed the culture of circular economy into every one of us. And for the time being, the full recovery of the material in waste is very, very essential. So this is a contribution of circular economy, because waste management is sitting in the middle or the center of the sustainable development. And part of it in terms of circular economy, this is what the goal that we can receive if we produce or we exercise circular economy in our country. Definitely the economic pillar, the social pillar, environmental pillar, this is something that you can go through, and I will share my slide with you. And of course, for me, being the country that are more on the service oriented, SDG 12 plays a very important role, responsible consumption and production, where we have to make sure that every people or every person's responsible for what they purchase, what they buy. And in terms of production as well, the factories have to look into this, how to make sure that we produce less waste. Yeah. Okay, I think a call for action, a very simple, short one, is that Malaysians have to switch from the resource consumption to a resource management in the circular economy. Of course, the benefit we have heard, we have seen, there are a lot of good benefit that you can see, especially on economic growth that is not dependent on the natural resources. The cost reduction when it comes to waste management itself, and of course the cost reduction in terms of the products, and reduce energy consumption. Can when we take from the perspective of waste management, when we have less waste, will have less vehicles, and when we have less vehicle, then of course the carbon emission that been produced by our vehicle will be lower, and will increase the supply chain and resource security. Okay, this is more on the call for action. As I mentioned just now, is waste for resource. And the bottom part is that the reason for our failure on recycling participation this is something that we as a public should understand, and of course for the government also to look into it. How can we increase in terms of the understanding, the awareness, and how can we engage more people to understand about the sustainability, the importance of 3R. And number two is enforcement on regulations. Yeah, we have this Act 672. We have the Act 171 for the states under the PBT management of waste. And of course, the number 3, 4, and 5 is more on the pull factors, where people are looking into more interested to participate in recycling when they have these incentive, and they want to know where they can put drop their recyclable material. And the fifth one is door-to-door collection services. Some of them would like to have this type of services to be recycled, be collected from home. And the last one, against to the government, if there is a penalty that the government has to do, especially under the Act 672 on the mandatory separation at source. So this is more on my idea on how sustainability project can be done. And I see that pay as you throw should be in place, come with a separation at source. This will definitely motivate people to do more on reduction, waste minimization, and of course recycle the material before putting into the dustbins. And we have this government's initiative on value food, no waste. I think it's widely been used. And renewable energy, and when it comes to the material, is on extended producer responsibility. This is one of the key terms on the circular economy that the government have to look at. And I believe that we have a few organizations like Maria also looking into this, which is a very good move from our side. And you can see from the Europe's countries, they are putting the landfill taxes. This is to prohibit people to throw, or for the company to throw waste, unnecessary waste into the landfills. So this is the sustainability practice that we can do. And this is initiative from the government. I think from the Ministry of Housing and Local Government, we have Act 672, Act 673, Dasar Pengurusan Sistem Pejalan Negara, Dasar Komuniti Negara, Dasar Kebersihan Negara, and the latest one we have a Dasar Kebun Komuniti Negara. So there are a lot of initiative being done, but the only question mark is on the execution of all these policies. Yeah, for me, call for action. Number one is enforce separation at source. This is very important. It's very key to get the people to be on their tools when it comes to the 3R. Introduce pay as you throw principle. EPR is a must. Introduce landfill taxes is necessary, and then we have to develop and enforce new related policy to support circular economy implementation. For example, is the green GDPs. I think country is looking into it, how to put into all these costs when it comes to the environment into the products. And on the pool is that it's more on, we need to have more facilities to make things easier for the people or public to dispose of the recycled material. And renewable energy policies, mechanism on infrastructure, tax incentive, and of course the last one is the people need to understand what is sustainability is all about. Okay, this is one of the examples that circular economy in Japan. They have the 3 tiers. It's starting from the home, from the individual industry level or at a house, and then it goes to the eco-industrial park where the industrial symbiosis is. Then it goes to the regional level. For example, in Malaysia, will be at the district area. Then from there, we can replicate to other areas. Of course, this is the last slide for me. Increase of GDP growth on decoupling from natural resources, and our objective is to have 40% reduction of greenhouse gases, landfill diversions, and recycling rates. And at the end, from a linear economy, my take is that we need to have this political will to make sure that whatever that have been in place, like the Act 672, Act 171, all the DASA and the policies that we have, and must be enforced, must take seriously to make sure it's done. And on the pull side is that we need to have a market creation to invite private sectors to come in and to assist. So before I end my presentation is that I would like to urge the government to really look into the extended producer responsibilities and to make it happen at least in terms of the waste material from the packaging side is being resolved and we can protect our marine litters. I think that's all for me. Thank you. I pass it back to Mr. Lee.